What is race?
What did other people say?
I don't really want to identify or define race in any way.
Pass. Second question.
I don't really see it as a real thing. It's kind of an artificial definition that was created to justify the institution of slavery and colonialism.
Let's go back to Noah. He put all sorts of races on his ship. So the way I define it is just a different kind of animals. Humans are amongst those.
It's like the biologically based identification of who you are.
Well, as we all know, race is a social construct. It doesn't necessarily exist in fact, genetically.
In biology, more generally speaking, it means subspecies. So a subdivision, a recognizable subdivision within a species. We actually don't have enough variation in our species to have good legitimate races. The lines indicate amount of genetic variation. All humans, it's just this tiny little teeny tiny twig, and it's about equivalent to a subspecies in one of these other apes. So we're making a really big deal out of very little genetic variation.
On all the forms I've ever seen, it's always like race/ethnicity, and then they have a bunch of categories, so it kind of like implies to me that it's the same thing.
Ethnicity has something to do with culture, right? So food, what are you watching on television?
Race seems to me to be something much larger that is more difficult to negotiate with. Ethnicity is usually something that you choose to identify with.
I hesitate to say that ethnicity is real and race is not, but ethnicity has a much closer relationship to someone's lived experience and the history of their family, whereas race is much more about politics and power.
So I used to be an Oriental, which was a rug. And then with the emergence of the term Asian American, I became an Asian American.
It's always white and British.
I check Asian Indian.
I'll choose Black/African American.
Asian American.
Mexican American, Hispanic.
But I check white.
I check white.
I'll put Latino for ethnicity and white for race.
I usually check 2 boxes, even if it tells me that I can only check 1 box.
Usually when I see something like that, I cringe inside. Because I never want to see myself as just being Caucasian.
What do people do with that census? What does the government do?
We wouldn't know how race is operating if we didn't collect data on it. So it's not that collecting data on it makes race real, it's just that it discloses for us how race is actually operating. We need to know when kids aren't getting into school. We need to know when they're not being insured, and we need to know when people are dying 10 years younger because they're black and living in Richmond versus white and living in Pleasanton. And if race is a complicating factor in those realities, we need to know that. So not gathering data about it just makes it really unscientific.
I feel like when people ask me where I come from and I answer Texas, like they're expecting something else, especially in Texas.
When I was 7, I was on this soccer team. A kid on the other team was like upset, and I remember his dad like pointing over at me and saying like, "See, look at them, all of them are Mexicans, they're all really good at soccer," or something. And I was like, no, I'm not Mexican or anything.
It's like an everyday occurrence almost. People will introduce themselves, say like ni hao, or like, I don't know, annyeonghaseyo.
I spend a lot of time in Germany. I'll have old ladies come up to me and tell me that I'm the darkest person that they've ever seen. I had one old man come up and do like a war call and say, "Wow, I've never seen a real Native American before," except he used kind of an offensive German word for it.
It reflects on my privilege that anywhere I go in the world, people are like, "Yeah, that guy's white, I know." I may not know all the specifics, but he's definitely white.
I came from Alabama, so that's where I first moved to when I first came to the US from China. People on the street, like driving a car, would just stop. I was like walking home on the way after school, and then they would just like, "Konnichiwa!" and then they would just drive off. Or even my math teacher, they would be like, "Oh, is that restaurant down the highway yours? I was thinking of getting a coupon from you or something."
People sometimes use my appearance as a way to talk to me. They'll come up and ask me what I am. I guess sometimes in context of someone hitting on me, like, "Oh my God, are you Native American?" I don't know if that's really beneficial or just obnoxious.
They'll ask, "Oh, will they kill you if you're Christian in China?" And then someone else is like, "No, that's what they do in North Korea." And then she's like, "Oh, is there that big of difference?" So I got really offended.
I'm Irish, Mexican, Puerto Rican. Society tells me I'm white. I have the sense that I'm not white. because I just told you. So it's very confusing for me. It's an important part of how I have to navigate my day-to-day life, and I honestly feel like it kind of sucks. Because I wish that someone could just see me for who I am and not have to worry about what do I look like.
I never thought race would be such a big problem here. They would treat me differently just because I'm Asian.
Individually, I get asked, and then we as a household get asked. So my husband is Black Jamaican, and then my kids, they are the genetic explosion that is race. One of my kids has red blonde hair, big waves and blue eyes and olive skin, and my other daughter has tight, very dark brown curls and big brown eyes and darker skin. And you put us all in a room together and you're like, race is complicated.
I would probably say American, but then again, I don't want to totally let the Indian side go.
Brazilian in upbringing and Southern Californian in lifestyle.
America.
I'm American.
I've tried to throw out random phrases that I know to real Koreans and they laugh at me. So, I don't know. Sure, I'm Asian American.
Married, who likes to play the guitar and goof around sometimes and reads philosophy. Lower middle class, a student, unemployed.
An elderly lady with one dog, too many books to read. I don't really feel belonging to any kind of race.
Life is Caucasian as they come. I'm not very interesting.
Initially, I'm very much part of the sort of Asian American movement. I came of age when identity politics was sort of emergent. It was a good term to use, Asian American, and maybe now I'm beyond that, or through it, or that's just one thing that I wear.
I think through either my own actions or work, they will see that if they have any preconceived notions, as I feel people often do, about what race and ethnicity is, that I will continue to surprise them along every step of the way.
Yesterday I ate German pumpernickel, but then I also had some Thai food leftovers. So, my fridge is actually my identity.
I think there are ways that I see myself, and then there are also ways in which I see myself that I know I see myself that way because it's part of the way other people see me.